So brief announcement. We're going to be singing numbers 149 in the hymnal, and I invite the congregation to sing at the very end. So we're going to sing it 3 times through, and then the 4th verse, if you feel so inclined, we'd love to have you join us on that first verse. So we're going to sing it 3 times through, and then one last time we're going to sing it, the first verse. You're more than welcome to join us. Thank you.
149, lift every voice and sing.
Lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chasing rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, and on our weary feet, up to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of the weary years, God of my silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in thy path, we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places of God where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. Lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won.
Thank you, choir and leaf. Centering thought. When we identify where our privilege intersects with somebody else's oppression, we'll find out opportunities to make real change. Welcome to our Sunday morning worship service. I'm Suzanne McQuaid, Service Associate today. Summit is a liberal religious community bound by shared principles that are drawn from world religions, humanist teachings, nature, science, philosophy, and personal practices. We are a religion of love and inclusion. Our mission here at Summit is to build a more compassionate, just, and sustainable world. And we're starting our announcements with Pat Summers today for the pledge campaign, followed by Al, followed by Aaron, followed by Melody, followed by Dan. Whoever is speaking for the shelter today, sorry.
Good morning. This morning, I'm going to share with you my first experience with pledge. In my sophomore year in high school, I decided to go on my own. So I talked to my teacher at school and discussed options. As you can imagine, I had very few options. The one option that I thought about is that I was accepted at Kamehameha Schools in Honolulu. It's a school for children of Hawaiian ancestry. I was accepted in the 7th grade, but I didn't have a scholarship, and my family couldn't afford my tuition, so I didn't go. I was now entering the 11th grade. Kamehamehas typically accept students in the 7th grade and the 9th grade boarders. I was entering the 11th grade. And the admission ended in March. This was in May. So my teacher said, well, why don't you write to the president of the school and ask for admission, which I did. I asked for admission to the 7th grade boarding school and also a full scholarship. 2 weeks after school started in the 11th grade, I received a call from Kamehameha stating that they would accept me and give me a full working scholarship. They would also pay for my plane fare to Honolulu from Hawaii. So here I was. At Kamehameha, the students are divided into sections. A are college prep, C is business, and D and E are vocational. I would have chosen the C section, business section, since I needed to support myself after high school. I was placed in the A section, the college prep section. So I decided after a while to apply for the University of Hawaii School of Nursing, and I was accepted. I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. At graduation, I was awarded 3 scholarships, 2 for my freshman year and 1 for 4 years, tuition only. I worked in the pineapple cannery at night to save money for school. My teacher at Kamehameha took me to the university to meet a family friend that lived close to the university within walking distance. I lived with them and worked for my room and board. She also took me to the university and introduced me to her friend, an assistant professor. Don, in turn, took me to the Wesley Foundation and introduced me to the campus minister. Wesley was across the street from the University of Hawaii. Wesley became my home at school. I got a locker there and was on a student board. I arranged for and did Friday night dinners and programs. I was a counselor for high school students at Wesley. Let's see. I was born into the Catholic faith. In the Catholic Church, you give offerings during Sunday service. My guardians were Mormons, and I didn't know about tithing with the Mormon Church. Kamehameha was a Protestant school. The students there were not we they didn't collect offerings during the service. I taught Sunday school at Kamehameha. At Wesley held a pledge drive, the first that I came across. I thought long and hard as to how much I could afford. When I ran out of money in college, I would work on weekends cleaning house. I decided to pledge $5 for the school year. It's the only pledge I remember because it was the most difficult for me to fulfill. When Hal retired from the Navy and we returned to San Diego, I went to the Methodist church close to home. Then I didn't go to church for a couple of years. On a Sunday morning walk, I saw this sign on a sandwich board announcing that there was a group called Summit meeting at the Masonic Lodge. I decided to check them out. I felt so welcome the first time that I joined Summit without really knowing what Unitarian Universalism was all about. I took classes with Ned White, the minister. Throughout the years, I've served on Summit's board and have been on many committees. Now that my health has declined, I'm spending more time taking care of myself. I go to a gym and work with a personal trainer 4 times a week, and I still meet with social groups during the week and take classes. I meet with Summit groups on Zoom and attend most services on Zoom. My goal this year is to attend more services in person. Summit, Hal and I have met many friends at Summit. Many have passed on, some have moved away, and many of you are still here. I want to encourage you to support the wonderful staff here at Summit, our programs, and our lovely home. Thank you very much. I gotta get down first. Okay.
Shelter announcements. Sorry, Melody, I didn't give you top billing.
You're okay. That's all right. I don't really like top billing.
Okay.
Good morning. This is just a quick interfaith shelter update. As most of you know, it's running from March 9th to the 23rd. Thank you so much for all who have already signed up for volunteer slots. 60% have been filled so far. And we've only been going a week and a half. Yes. Our biggest needs still are occurring in the second week. We have most of the first week filled, but there are still some spaces there. And we'll have the volunteer board in the salon if you want to look at that and see what's been filled and what hasn't yet. Let's see, we need you all who have signed up to check your emails periodically for Sign Up Genius messages, because that is how we'll communicate with you with details, instructions, changes that are happening, and before and during the shelter's operation. So we'll be in the salon after the sermon if you want to sign up that way, or you can also use the QR code or the link on the flyer that's in the back, or in the e-news each week. Okay? So thank you again, and hoping to get to 100% very quickly. Thanks.
Thank you, Melody. Al.
Hello. Oh, okay. Well, as some of you may have read already, St. Andrew's Lutheran is doing 2 more weeks of housing the unhoused guests, because in the church they were supposed to go to had a physical problem due to the rain. And this is not unusual, because at times we have had our shelter at other churches, and other churches have used our campus to have their. So, but the bottom line is that they asked us to bring the meal tomorrow night, and what we need is a vegetarian entree that serves 8 to 10. We need some bread, and we also need a dessert. And so I will be here at 5 tomorrow night, by 5, and if you could drop off your food and by quarter after 5, and I will transport it over to St. Andrews. And so if you have any questions, I'll be here today, or call me. And so, all right, so thank you.
Thank you, Al and Melody and all the people doing the heavy lifting for our shelter, and Al for helping out another shelter. Casey's got an announcement.
I always want to wait until the end to make sure I don't step on anybody's toes. Just a reminder, today in the sanctuary, after service, is our grief group at noon. All grief is welcome. This is not the Grief Olympics. No one's grief is more important or less important than anyone's. Next week in the library, it should be, we'll be doing our Minister's Book Group. We're gonna put a pause on Indigenous peoples' history of the United States until next month, so if you've been reading that, you get another month with it. We're gonna do Repentance and Repair, which was last month's book. If you haven't read it, come on down anyways, it's gonna be a really good conversation. I have 2 couples that have been dying to be in a covenant group, and I have been unable to find them a covenant group facilitator. So if there is someone who would like to run, just for the end of this year, a covenant group for a couple of our older congregants who are gonna be on Zoom, let me know. I would love to get you in contact and get that set up for them, because I would much rather they get a few chances to talk about the material than no chances at all. Just a reminder that 12:30 is our social justice meeting in the library. Thank you.
Land acknowledgement. We want to acknowledge that our fellowship resides on unceded Kumeyaay land. The Kumeyaay people have lived on this land for more than 10,000 years. It continues to be their home today. We recognize the abusive history of colonization in California and honor the legacy of the continuing presence of the Kumeyaay Nation. Thank you for being with us today for a time of reflection and connection. We invite you to stay after the service for a community gathering, have a chance to give feedback to the speaker, and after that, you're invited for refreshments in the salon. And after that, many other things going on today. Let us calm our hearts and our minds as we light the chalice. When the great mosaic of humanity is treated with respect and dignity, when no person is threatened by hunger or war, when we have extended hospitality to the stranger and tended to the sick, when equity and justice reign everywhere, then we shall all be free. We light this flame to hold that moment in our spirit and in our mind until we can make it real. You, him, and aspiration.
Feel free to rise.
Yes,
in
please
mind,
stand.
body, or spirit, as you are able or willing.
Truth and good be
be the spirit of this fellowship. May the quest for truth be its sacrament, and service be its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pastor Casey Marie Pandell. I am the minister here at Summit. Whether it is your first visit or your 5,000th visit, you are whole, you are holy, you are loved, and you are so welcome here. Our reading this morning comes from Gordon B. McKeeman, entitled Anyone's Ministry. Ministry is a quality of relationship between and among human beings that beckons forth hidden possibilities. Ministry is inviting people into deeper, more constant, more reverent relationship with the world and one another. It is carrying forward a long heritage of hope and liberation that has dignified and informed the human venture over many centuries. It is being present with, to, and for others in their terrors and their torments, in their grief, misery, and pain, knowing that those feelings are our feelings too. It is celebrating the triumphs of the human spirit, the miracles of birth and life, the wonders of devotion and sacrifice. It is witnessing to life-enhancing values, speaking truth to power, speaking for human dignity and equity, for compassion and aspiration. It is believing in life in the presence of death. It is struggling for human responsibility against principalities and structures that ignore humanness and become instruments of death. It is all these things and much more than all of them, present in the wordless, the unspoken, the ineffable. It is speaking and living the highest we know and living with the knowledge that it is never as deep or as wide or as high as we wish. Whenever there is a meeting that summons us to be our better selves, wherever our lostness is found, our fragments are united, our wounds begin healing, our spines stiffen, and our muscles grow strong for the task, there is ministry. Welcome to worship. Please rise in mind, body, and spirit as we sing number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. For those of you who are new, that is the teal hymnal with the paperback. And now is our time for sharing community through our joys and concerns. Joys and concerns can be emailed or texted to me throughout the week. They can also be handwritten over near our chancel every Sunday morning. Whether you write it, share it, or not, you are always welcome to light a candle. We have 2 concerns today to share, sorrows. The first comes from Eleanor, who shares her aunt, whom she is named after, is in her final days. She's 95 years old. Eleanor, we hold you and your aunt in our hearts. Lisa Garvey shares that today is 2 years since we lost Jeff. His kindness, his big smile, and his even bigger laugh will always be in her heart. We hold you in our hearts, Lisa. We know that not all joys and concerns that are in this room today have been shared aloud. Whether spoken or unspoken, we hold you in our hearts. And I would like to invite Mary up for our time for all ages.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Might see if my mic's hot. Is it hot? Can you hear me? Test, test. There we go. There we go. Now you can hear me. Hi. How's everybody this morning? So I have a new friend for y'all to share. Trying to figure out how to do the introduction here. You see there's a new graphic over here on the wall. I'll go stand over here. Maybe Gabriel can get the camera over here so our folks online can see. I took the tree down, and now we have this graphic with love in the very center. So does anybody know what this graphic comes from? Article 2. Oh, that sounds so boring, doesn't it? This is part of the Unitarian Universalist Association, who is the main denomination in the hallowed halls of Boston. They're changing their bylaws. They're in the process. And this year, and the big bylaw being changed is called Article 2. That's a piece. It's not a very exciting name. But pastors, ministers, religious educators, lay leaders have all been challenged to teach it and preach it this year. So I'm teaching you today a little bit about Article 2. So this is going to be something new, but doesn't replace the principles and purposes. All it does is it centers our values, right? And so we have justice, equity, transformation, generosity, interdependence, and pluralism. And what's in the center? Love. Love. Because love is the heart of everything we do. So, have you ever tried to explain Unitarian Universalism to somebody? Does everybody have a really solid elevator speech? Probably not. But you could think about justice, equity, transformation, generosity, independence, pluralism, right? It's kind of hard to remember all those big words, isn't it? So now religious educators, we're always thinking, right? We've been working with this for about a year, maybe a little less, and trying to figure out how to explain this to folks. But there's something really cool we do in Unitarian Universalism. We like to play with letters, right? We like to make fun little things. So justice is J, right? Equity, E. Transformation, T. What does it spell? Jet, right? And then down here we have pluralism, P. Interdependence, I. And generosity, G. What does that spell? Jet pig. So I want to introduce you to Jet Pig! Woo! This is Jet Pig. So if you can remember Jet Pig, you can remember an elevator speech. So this is Jet Pig. He flies around, and he has his little love cape on the back, and he's powered by the power of love, the zoomies. So Peanut helped me with that, because Peanut gets the zoomies, you know? So this is Jet Pig, and we're going to be playing with Jet Pig in RE, and I hope you can use Jet Pig to help you remember these amazing values that we share in this faith. So, I'd like to introduce you to Jet Pig.
Which Mary made by hand in like 48 hours or less.
It's true. Crochet is one of my superpowers, where Jet Pig's power is love. So,
Jet Pig was being crocheted during Barbie last
Yes, Jet Pig got finished during Barbie last night. So we watched Barbie here last night. So this is our little Jet Pig. He's going to go back to RE because I know the kids are going to want to get to know him. He's still pinned on, though. We have to be a little careful. He's got some pins on here. So for, let's do our affirmation, and then we can do our children's recessional song. And I hope that you can use this wonderful graphic. We're going to leave this up. Like this month, we're talking about justice and equity. We're going to be hitting on all of these over the next few months as far as themes go. So join me in our affirmation, which is we are Unitarian Universalists, people of open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. And now we're going to sing our children's recessional. For those who would like to, we're going to head back. We're going to play with Jet Pig, and we're going to make some Valentines. So, are we ready? On each person is worthwhile to be kind in all you do. 3, we help each other learn. 4, search for what is true. 5, all people have a say. 6, work for a peaceful world. 7, you got it? Hi, good. Nice sport. It's you too with your contraband. Hi, Riker.
I will admit, it was so hard for me to
This is
remember
Jack.
all the letters for Article 2,
Jack.
and Jet Pig sealed
This is
the
Riker,
deal
and
for
this
me.
is Rinsler. Oh, recycle is in the blue one. We will rescue it. The other side. And here goes Miss.
Can we get Mary's mic
This is
off?
Abby.
Mary's mic is still
We're
on.
going to sit at the table today. This is Jack, Abby. He's new today.
No,
we want to
she's
get
talking
name
to the
tags so we
kids.
can help Jack.
Unfortunately, this could be an argument for making sure we have speakers in the RE room one day. Mary. So, like Mary said, we're going to be working with all of these things over the next few months. I know, Article 2 in bylaws sounds so boring. I know. This is part of our governance process. This is something that we do every 15 years as Unitarian Universalists. So for those of you who have been around for a while and are thinking, we didn't do Article 2, we haven't changed our bylaws, that's because it failed 15 years ago. So part of our process is that if we don't all vote on it when it comes time, the process stops and we revisit it again later. So, just to give you a little background, I promise it's more exciting than that. But, so Jet Pig's our way that we're going to remember that through the next few months. Please rise in mind, body, and spirit, and join us for singing hymn 1028, The Fire of Commitment, which can be found in your teal hymnal. From the light of days remembered, burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. From the fire of commitment, sets our mind and soul ablaze, with our hunger and our passion, meet to call us on our way. When we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living, raise a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. Our meditation today is a story from Rayla D. Matson, who is one of UUism's BIPOC religious educators and a writer. In case the term BIPOC is still unfamiliar to you, that is Black, Indigenous, and People of Color. So this is one of our religious educators who is a Black woman. I marched so my children and grandchildren would have equality. While attending a protest with my kids, we were standing around waiting for the marching part to begin. My middle child asked me what we were doing, meaning what were we waiting for in that moment, and when were things going to begin? My youngest, who was beginning to gain some words, piped up, "We're marching," with as much enthusiasm as she could muster. When my mom marched in the 1960s, she not only marched for herself and others, she also marched for the kids and grandkids she might one day have. She believed that the sit-ins and the protests would give her future family an equality that she did not have. She didn't realize that we, her descendants, would one day march for the same rights. Mom was saddened when I took my children to the protest. She felt like she had let us down, and that her protesting and sit-ins and refusing to sit at the back of the bus were all for nothing. Why did she do all of that for us when we're still protesting for the same rights she protested for all those years ago? I often wonder about how or if things really ever changed. I know that things are different, but inequality's head is still reared in many ways. I wonder if my children will take my grandchildren to marches and protests for the same rights I protest over today. Will things change and look different, or still be there? Will I, like my mother, lament over failed efforts to bring about equity and justice? At what point does true change take effect? For me, the answer is that people of color and other marginalized people can't just want for things to be different. It has to be everyone doing this work, no matter how uncomfortable or mundane or monotonous. It has to be everyone wanting things to be different for everyone. Great Spirit of life, may we live a life that is not in vain. May our works and our deeds have meaning. May the path that our ancestors tread, that we follow and leave for others, lead to true equity and justice. Amen. Historically speaking, Unitarian Universalists have long been activists. I'm not going to pretend our activism has ever been perfect or without flaw, and most certainly we can look back at the works of our forebears with a lens of modernity and say, oh, we could have done that better. As I expect, and I look forward to, the next generation of Unitarian Universalists doing for us. With the next presidential election looming large overhead, we look to our futures. What do we want from this world? Where do we want to be, to go, to grow? These are questions, of course, that we are constantly asking ourselves in our communities and our committees. But when big things like elections and wars and genocides and climate change take up an incredible amount of our mental capacity, one may start to get into the spaces of feeling constantly bombarded. How could we possibly feel jubilant for a future when the cold dread of the pains and worries of the world constantly creep in? This is exactly the type of dilemma that Joanna Macy and Chris Johnstone tackle in their 2012 book, Active Hope: how to face the mess we're in without going crazy. While a significant portion of this book centers around the impending climate crisis issues, the point of the book is relevant all the same. When the world feels like it is falling apart, what is the point of trying to make it better? When faced with feeling like nothing we do matters, why even bother? Macy and Johnstone define hope in two very significant ways. First, the hopefulness required to determine what we think is even reasonably possible. You can think of this as the hope that is the spark to action. But the second hope is something deeper. It's about what we most desire to happen. It is the flame that gets fanned when we are actively engaged in change making. The second hope is what our authors call active hope. Not merely a thought experiment, a conversation, a what if, but the actual act of doing now something that can effect change. Active hope isn't just a nice thought, but a regular practice. As Unitarian Universalists, it's something that could maybe become one of our spiritual practices. What the authors of the book posit is that even when the world feels like it's crumbling, the practice of active hope is an engaged one, and not one that we do in a vacuum. It's the work that we choose to do now, in this moment, that helps maintain a verdant wish for the future. You can think of it as the light in the chalice in the deep midnight hours. As you may have noticed, we are in February, which means a new monthly theme, justice and equity. And we UUs spend a whole lot of time talking about these themes, and boy, do we love a good conversation. But sometimes I think we struggle for really tangible ways to affect change in these spheres of justice and equity. We know we live in a society that is unjust and inequitable. If we lived in a perfectly just and equitable society, we would not have a need for our interfaith shelter. We would not see in stark reality the school-to-prison pipeline flourishing year after year. We would not see almost 50% of San Diegans cost burdened when it comes to sheltering their families. Black Lives Matter wouldn't exist, and we would never see a red handprint splashed across the mouths of missing and murdered Indigenous women activists, symbolizing the silence and violence that has and continues to be perpetuated across North America of our Indigenous sisters. We do not live in a just or equitable society. This does not mean that we should despair and never work towards the support and creation of spaces that are more just and equitable. The world as it is need not be the world as it remains. What can I do? I can practically hear you asking, I am one person. How do I matter? There's a story about a small child on the beach. It's low tide and there are starfish everywhere along the sand. An adult watches as the child walks along, picking up a starfish and returning them to the water. The adult laughs and says, "Kid, you're never going to make a difference. There are thousands of starfish." And the child ponders this for a moment, watching the adult closely before stooping down to pick up another starfish and returning this one too to the water. "I made a difference for that starfish." The other day, I broached exactly this kind of subject. As you heard earlier from Al, I received a text message the other night asking for some help. St. Andrew's Lutheran is one of our interfaith shelter partners, and they are set to finish their 2 weeks with the shelter guests preparing to head to a new location. But St. John's of the Cross Catholic Church was affected by our historic storm, and they can no longer commit to housing our unhoused siblings. But St. Andrew's has taken up the charge, but they recognize they couldn't do it alone. And they've reached out to other partners for assistance. As of yesterday, Al and the Bartholomews are helping provide the main dish and salads tomorrow, and Laura Lisa is supposed to bring some desserts that will be waiting for us today. So if you would also like to help, veggie dishes that serve 8 to 10 people and bread are welcome tomorrow at 5:15.
We got our vegetarian dish this morning, so we need another entree, basically, more guests than what they started off with a couple weeks ago, so, and regrettably, but that's
Perfect.
yeah, preferably, vegetarian dish, although I prefer meat, so,
Cool.
okay.
Does one meal change anything for the people who are unhoused and have no regular food, shelter, or comforts? Of course it does. Because every single act of generosity, of kindness, is a reaffirmation of the worth and dignity of our unhoused siblings. One meal may not solve every issue, but damn it if it doesn't matter to have a full belly at night. And a sharing of our own resources is but one simple way we can do that. But maybe you don't have extra food to share. Heaven knows that grocery shopping feels like a luxury these days. So what other resources can you spare? The Santee Methodist Church, in addition to their monthly community pancake breakfast, runs a small, free women's clothing store known as Naomi's Closet. You heard that right, not low cost, but free. First and third Saturday mornings. They are often accepting gently used clothes, shoes, handbags, from casual to business casual. So instead of passing spare clothes you no longer need off to Goodwill, who sells them for a premium, trust me, gone are the days of cheap thrifting finds. Why not consider a visit to Reverend Jamie's community, perhaps to leave a donation, or maybe to see if they need a helping hand? Being able to show up somewhere in clean, nice clothes to a job interview, to school, or even just on an average day, those things matter to people. When we can give those no longer needed things we own, we have a chance to help restore the confidence of somebody else. But maybe you don't have clothes to share. I have a friend who, since moving out at 18 for the last decade, has kept bottled water, protein and snack bars, and other non-perishables in her car, just in case she comes along an unhoused person with a sign asking for food. And a trigger warning, she has also volunteered at crisis centers, including domestic violence and rape crisis centers. Her skill? Providing compassionate, loving voice and presence when someone calls a hotline. So what sort of commitment can you share? Are you able to tutor a child in math, science, or reading? Can you walk a shelter dog for a few minutes a day? Are you able to drive a car and deliver meals for the elderly and the ill? Can you stand firm beside a woman walking into Planned Parenthood for health care? Are you able to answer a phone and take a crisis call? Can you help get new and young voters squared away to vote this autumn? Of course, our own interfaith shelter continues to need volunteers. Thank you so much to those of you who have already given time or have already committed time. There are a multitude of ways that we can get involved with the good work that needs to happen in the world right now. Yes, donating money to important causes helps. Yes, showing up and being a voice in school board meetings where they go over the same policies over and over again helps. Yes, the work of internal anti-racism and anti-oppression work matters, but sometimes these things can take years to come to fruition. And there is something about active hope that calls us to action right now. Sometimes people need help right now, if even only for today. Not every initiative is for everyone, and clearly we need not reinvent the wheel. Much like social justice work that we seek to engage in, it is not necessarily our responsibility to come up with new grand schemes. There is good, solid work already happening in the world. We as Summit do not need to stand up and say, here is our idea, though we could. But we're a small community with small resources. At the most recent count, with people moving, losing folks to the passage of time and illness, our current member count is comfortably somewhere around 100 members. 100 mighty, caring, loving members. We do not have the resources or the person power of a 500-person congregation, but we have the heart of one. And what we do today matters. Finding ways to share ourselves matters. I leave you with the following quote from activist Dorothy Day. What would we like to do is to change the world. Make it a little simpler to feed and clothe and shelter people and have them do so themselves. By fighting for better conditions, by crying out unceasingly for the rights of the workers, the poor, the destitute, we can, to a certain extent, change the world. We can work for the oasis, the little cell of joy and peace in a harried world. We can throw our pebble in the pond and be confident that it is an ever-widening circle that will reach around the world. So may it be, and amen.
Thank you, Pastor Casey. We are a fellowship supported entirely by the generosity of our members and friends. We appreciate our faithful pledgers who keep up their monthly contributions. If you would like to support Summit today, our ushers will come around to collect your donations. And if you are at home on Zoom, and I've referred to the 20 people that I saw in the count there, thank you for being with us today, Zoom people. You can contribute through the virtual plate on the website. And thank you for the music during this time.
Johann Kuhnau is mostly known now as the predecessor of J.S. Bach in Leipzig, and was somebody who inspired him greatly. This is, speaking of small but mighty, the original Small but Mighty story, David and Goliath. This is selections from his biblical sonata. The battle between David and Goliath. The stone, which he throws with his sling, sinks into the forehead of the giant. Goliath falls. The music concert given by the women in honor of David. The general rejoicing and dancing and gaiety of the people.
Thank you, Barbara. Wonderful and entertaining, as always. And closing hymn.
The world is large and there is so much fear and pain and suffering. It is hard not to feel overwhelmed. Indeed, it is human to do so. We are so deeply affected by this interconnected web of which we are all a part, but let us not despair. Let us use the pains of the world as the kindling of our chalice flame towards a more equitable and just future in all of the small ways that really matter. There may be thousands of starfish. Let us seek the ones we can make a difference for together. Amen, shalom, salam, namaste, ashe, and blessed be. Go now in peace. May the light within you be a blessing to the world.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of a commitment. Those we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And after the closing circle and the bathroom break, we invite you back for a group discussion.